Good morning and welcome to all of you joining us today and to the subcommittee members seated around our virtual table. My name is Aaron Washington, and it is my pleasure to welcome you back to the Prison Education Program Subcommittee. First, I want to express our appreciation for the communities that have worked hard for this change and that are now at the table helping to write the rules. We want to hear their voices representing impacted students, and we want to ensure the committee hears their voices. Language developed and recommended by this subcommittee will inform the work of the Affordability and Student Loans main table. And I'd like to welcome everyone from the subcommittee to the virtual table representing various constituencies. You've been nominated by your peers and selected by the department to discuss important issues concerning federal student aid programs authorized under Title IV of the Higher Education Act of 1965 as amended. So we kicked off our subcommittee process from October 18th through the 20th, and we appreciate all of the subcommittee members who engaged with us through that process, shared your concerns, and provided suggestions. Based on your feedback, we have provided the subcommittee with amended texts. My goal for this final session is to develop one strong recommendation to send to the main committee. And with that said, let's jump into introduction. So I'll start. My name is Aaron Washington, and I will be the team lead for the department during the next 3 days. And I will turn it to my colleague, David Musser, to introduce himself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is David Musser. I'm with the Office of Federal Student Aid as the director of the Policy Innovation and Dissemination Group. We are responsible for publishing the Federal Student Aid Handbook and for overseeing the Experimental Sites Initiative, which includes the Second Chance Pell Experiment.
Thank you, David. We have Steve Finley with us.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Steve Finley. I work in the Office of the General Counsel at the Department of Education and concentrate on post-secondary education issues and institutional compliance.
Thank you, Steve. We have Elizabeth Daggett with us.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Elizabeth Daggett. I'm an analyst with the Accreditation Group. Our role is to review accrediting agencies to ensure that they meet the requirements for recognition by the department. And so obviously there are always additional items that they are doing to include reviewing programs for federal student aid purposes. So thank you.
Vanessa Gomez. Vanessa is screen sharing, right? Well, she's preparing to screen share, so she may be multitasking. Sophia McCarty. Oh.
Do you see me? Okay. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Sorry about that. I am going to be screen sharing, as Aaron said. I work with the Policy Development Group with Aaron, and happy to be here this morning.
Thank you, Vanessa. And Sophia McCardle.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. Welcome back. I'm Sophia McCardle. I'm also with the Policy Development Group, and I will once again be calling on subcommittee members when it is their turn to speak and also tracking the 3-minute time limit. Looking forward to a great session.
Thank you, Sophia. So now I wanted to turn it to the subcommittee. So if you would state your name, your constituency, you can talk a little bit about your background and also let the subcommittee know how you would like to be addressed throughout the duration of the 3 days. And so I wanted to give folks about 2 minutes each to provide those items. So we'll start with Belinda Wheeler.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Belinda Wheeler. Please feel free just to call me Belinda. I'm a senior program associate at the Vera Institute of Justice. Vera, we do many different things, but the one area of which I'm a part of, Unlocking Potential, provides technical assistance to the 130 Second Chance Pell experimental sites around the country. So that's some of the great work that we do in that space, and I am representing consumer advocacy groups. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Belinda. We will go to Kim Carey next, please.
Good morning, everyone. Kim is fine, to go by that. I am representing the financial aid administrators. I've been in the financial aid industry for approximately 21 years, so thank you for allowing me to be on this committee.
Thank you, Kim. Stanley Andres.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Stanley Andres. I am a formerly incarcerated person who was sentenced to 10 years in prison, was told that I was going to be a career criminal. I actually labeled as a career criminal in my sentencing. Fast forward some time, I'm now Dr. Stanley Andres, professor, an assistant professor at Howard University College of Medicine, a former faculty member at Johns Hopkins Medicine, a visiting faculty at Georgetown Medicine and Imperial College of London, as well as the executive director and co-founder of Prison to Professionals, which is how I sit here with you today. Prison to Professionals is a nonprofit organization that works nationally. We connect with about 400 plus currently and formerly incarcerated people per year to help them pursue higher education and gainful employment. And I am representing here today with you formerly incarcerated students.
Thank you, Stanley. Terrell Blunt.
Good morning, everyone. Terrell Blunt, serve as the director of the formerly incarcerated College Graduates Network, and I am representing groups that represent incarcerated students.
Thank you, Terrell. Terrence McTeer.
Good morning. I am Dr. Terrence McTeer. I am the director of the Prison Education Project at Washington University in St. Louis.
Thank you, Dr. McTeer. Marissa Britton Bostwick.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Marissa Britton Bostwick. I am the Director of Education for the Montana Department of Corrections. I am so thankful to be on this committee and honored, and I am representing correctional education. I have been in public school education and correctional education for the last 24 years, and I'm thankful to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Marissa. Angie Paccioni.
Yes, hi, I'm Dr. Angie Paccioni. You can call me Angie, and I'm representing SHIO, the State Higher Ed Executive Organization, and I reside in Colorado, where I am the Executive Director of the Colorado Department of Higher Education. It's a governor-appointed position, and I have enjoyed these last sessions, and I look forward to these as well. I do have some pretty unstable internet connection in my house, so I'll be on and off video. Thank you.
Thank you. On Monday, November 1st, Anne Preside was nominated and approved by the main committee to become a member of the subcommittee. And so I would like to extend a welcome to Ms. Preside. We are happy that she will be able to join us. However, she will not be able to join until the afternoon session. So we will allow Ms. Preside to introduce herself in the afternoon. So I just wanted to run through a few protocols, the same protocols we had last time. So cameras should remain on during active negotiations at all sessions, and cameras should be turned off during breaks and may also be turned off during brief absence. Subcommittee members will remain engaged in the work of the subcommittee and refrain from other activities, including posting on social media during the time that subcommittee meetings are in session. I will introduce each new topic, and the subcommittee member who wishes to speak on that topic should virtually raise their hand, and Sophia will determine speaking order and call upon subcommittee members when it is their turn to speak. Subcommittee members must wait their turn and follow the department staff instructions. Ed staff, including myself, David and Steve, intend to do the same unless asked a specific targeted question by the subcommittee, or Elizabeth, I'm sorry, as well. Only one subcommittee member may speak at a time. All other subcommittee members' microphones are to remain muted. For today, we will limit comments 3 minutes to ensure that we're moving at a pace to get through our agenda on time and to ensure we're hearing from everyone that wants to speak. So Sophia will let you know when you've reached 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and also when you reached your final 3 minutes. If you would like to speak again, please just raise your hand. Also, please note the subcommittee does not vote. The subcommittee is structured more like a working group. There's been a lot of discussion about this in the main committee. It was constituted and approved under the main committee protocols as announced in the Federal Register. And the department has been purposeful in distinguishing between the main and the subcommittee. The subcommittee will provide timely recommendations to the main committee. Then the primary negotiators from the main committee and the federal negotiator will vote on the package. The committee may also request additional information from the subcommittee as needed. And we do need to decide who will take notes, just like we did last time, and present the subcommittee's recommendation to the main committee. It could be more than one person. Last time it was Belinda and Stan. It doesn't have to be the same people. The presentation will include proposed regulatory language that we will develop here over the next 3 days. And also, it should have something accompanying it, like a PowerPoint or a high-level report or more high-level overview. So I want to pause here and establish with the subcommittee who will be, who the subcommittee nominates or proposes or wants to volunteer to do the report, the final report to the main committee in December. So that was a question for the subcommittee.
Belinda? Oh, go ahead, Belinda.
Thank you very much. I was just going to say that I'm happy to continue in this role with Stan as we did the last time if he and the subcommittee members would like, but I'm also happy to, default to other people too. So I'm very happy to, just wanted to put myself out there. I want to double check with Stan though too, and then also check in with the other subcommittee members. Thank you very much.
Stan?
I was just going to mention the same.
So it also can be a collaboration amongst more than Stan and Belinda. So if any other subcommittee member is interested in reporting out with Stan and Belinda on the final for the final recommendation to the main committee, you are more than welcome to join Stan and Belinda. I do remember from previous negotiations that one of the subcommittees had 3 people reporting out, so it doesn't have to be limited to just 2. So if you're unsure right now whether you would like to report out with Belinda and Stan, you can let us know throughout the day. It would be helpful to let us know as soon as possible so that you can all coordinate and also kind of be actively taking notes during the meeting, so you can be prepared to report what transpired during the meetings. So I will periodically ask for.
There's a comment from Kim. Sorry. Kim?
Sorry for that late hand there, Erin. Could you explain what December will look like for us and what goes on with that time frame?
So just like the last time, we didn't get a specific date until a little bit later that we would actually be presenting to the main committee. So the main committee, in collaboration with the Department of Education, will decide the day in which they would like the subcommittee to make the final recommendation. So that is still to be determined. We hope to get that date to you as soon as it advances before the actual report, before you actually have to do the report out. But if for some reason we can't tell you, if there's a short amount of time between that, we will hope the department is here to lend a helping hand. For the last report out, we did take the first stab at drafting the PowerPoint that Belinda and Stan used to report out. Belinda and Stan, of course, had final say or authority over whether they use that PowerPoint. They can make any edits to that PowerPoint. But if for some reason, which we don't anticipate happening, we let you know, I don't know, the day of or the day before, the department would be here to help assist you with drafting the report. And obviously, hopefully the mandatory language is done by Wednesday, because hopefully we can finalize, that's the goal, to finalize the entire mandatory language package by Wednesday. So I don't have a specific date for you yet, but but that can be one of the things I can take back, and hopefully maybe either after lunch or tomorrow morning, I can tell you the specific date that the subcommittee will report out to the main committee.
Okay, that'd be fine.
Go ahead.
I think I was just mainly concerned about making sure the regulatory conversation needs to be done by Wednesday of what we want to push forward.
Yeah, so that's the goal. Because these are public meetings, I think the goal is to finalize the recommendation. Of course, there may be some technical edits that we might need to make. Today, we will see a few in our anticipation to get the mandatory language to you all. Before we started here, there were a few technical issues that we need to fix today in real time that I will walk you through. But the goal really is to finalize the substantive points by Wednesday at 3 p.m. But if there's like a period missing or something like that, of course, those can all be fixed and updated. But at least the substantive issues we want to finish by Wednesday at 3.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you. Okay, and and Kim, if you're tentatively interested in presenting based on with conditions on the actual date that the report out will be, that would also be you can also weigh in on that as well. So I will periodically ask for the subcommittee members to show a thumbs up, thumbs down, or sideways thumbs to determine if the subcommittee is on track to provide one recommendation to the main committee. I think I'm going to try and do temperature checks more frequently than I did last time. This will also provide an opportunity to see if there's division on a path forward and how we can work together to resolve that issue. So Vanessa, as she stated, will be sharing her screen and making real-time edits. And because this is the final 3 days, I really would like to focus the discussion on language suggestions. I know that there will be overall comments on the direction of the regulatory package, the subcommittee's opinions on the regulatory package, how this will impact communities. I think those will all be relevant comments. I think if those comments could be accompanied by a language change, that would be helpful, because we would actually be able to see, how the overall idea would be relayed through regulatory language. If you are suggesting a change, please be sure to speak slowly and clearly so that Vanessa can capture the change. If you do not have exact language you would like to propose, but you have a concept that you would like the department to include in the regulatory language, you can let us know, and we will go back and try and draft language prior to the next day's meeting. So Vanessa will highlight new change. So in the mandatory language, which we'll see momentarily, we have the red line changes the red line edits that we made, that we sent to the subcommittee prior to the first committee. All of the changes that we made between the first session and the second session were highlighted in yellow. And today I'm going to ask that Vanessa highlight any language changes that the subcommittee proposes today in bright blue. And so that will help us distinguish between all of the changes that were made, or all the proposals and changes that were made between the first session and now. So our schedule for today is just to get through a lot of the more technical areas and the areas where we had general agreement, but the department has added a little bit more context upon further discussion. And then tomorrow we're going to be discussing the new subpart P, and that generally is the overall definition of a prison education program. We had originally intended to put that definition into 668.8 in the Code of Federal Regulations. That is under eligible programs. There are other things discussed in that section. So we felt as though it would be a better regulatory read if the prison education program language had its very own subpart. and it kind of highlights the importance of prison education programming. And then the third day, we'll be back, more subpart P, a lot of discussion, we hope, on the best interest of students with the Bureau of Prisons, State Department of Corrections determination of the best interest of students. And then the final cleanup for the afternoon, we want to kind of go back to the regulation and just look at any final suggestions that the subcommittee has. So I want to pause there before we jump into the mandatory language. That's all I had for kind of like the lead-in, and so now I did want to jump into the mandatory language. So if anybody has any questions before we do that, please let me know.
I'm not seeing any hands.
No hands? Okay. All right. So I wanted to start with, I'll actually give Vanessa a chance to pull it up. Thank you, Vanessa. So I wanted to start with 600.2 in the definition section. We got general tentative agreements on the, I'm like looking at so many screens here. All right, so we got tentative agreements. There were no thumbs down for the definition of an additional location. And we did propose, you'll see highlighted in here, we did propose to make some updates to the definition of a confined or incarcerated individual. And so we've added some we just added means there. You can see that highlighted. And also from the previous discussions, we had some suggestions, and one of the suggestions was that Terrell advised that the department should add that individuals subject to or serving an involuntary civil commitment would not be considered confined or incarcerated. What that would in effect do, that would allow an individual serving an involuntary civil commitment to access Pell to enroll in any eligible program, not just the prison education program. And also that individual would have access to other aid programs, including direct loans. So we've added that there based on Terrell's recommendation. And we've also, I wanted to just chat with you all a little bit about Dr. McTier's recommendation. So Dr. McTier, you recommended to add outpatient treatment facilities to the definition of for a confined or incarcerated student that is you recommended to add outpatient treatment facility to be included for a student who is, if a student is serving in an outpatient treatment facility, they would be considered confined or incarcerated. So I got tongue tied there. And so in effect, what that would do, that would require that a student that's serving a criminal sentence in an outpatient treatment facility to enroll in a prison education program, and that student would only be eligible for Pell. They would not have access to direct loans. We were able to discuss this with this suggestion with the Department of Justice and learn that some individuals in outpatient treatment facilities can leave the facility and enroll in an eligible program in a post-secondary institution. And so for that reason, the department believes that these individuals should be able to enroll in any eligible program they're choosing and not just the prison education program. And I think the benefit here is that it expands options for those that are in an outpatient treatment facility and if for their post-secondary education endeavors. Stan, you had a question last time about the clause that says serving a criminal sentence. And so we've also followed up on that and about the eligibility of someone who's not serving a criminal sentence, perhaps because they're just in a correctional facility awaiting trial. And we confirm that would not apply until the person begins serving a criminal sentence. Therefore, any time before the individual begins serving the criminal sentence, they could enroll in any program of their choosing, whether it's a prison education program or not. But keep in mind, though, that the Department of Education does not have control of program offerings in correctional facilities and cannot compel a post-secondary institution to offer a program to a prospective individual. So I will pause there for any questions on that.
Not seeing any hands at this moment.
Not seeing any. So we do have to make one technical update to this section, and I think Vanessa is sharing. I'm also, if you'll notice that I'm also in the version that Vanessa is sharing. The one technical edit that we have to make, with I'll drop in now, is the definition of a juvenile justice facility. Unfortunately, that was not captured here, and so I just wanted to add. I wanted to let the subcommittee know that that definition would be added back to 600.2 because it was mistakenly added to subpart P when we were just moving things around. Also, the definition of juvenile justice facility, that was something that juvenile, sorry, this was something that was added. I just wanted to show you all how the actual definition would actually look. And this was, remember, we added juvenile justice facility before the first session. So what I wanted to do now, if there are no questions, is I wanted to take a temperature check, and just so we could kind of, this will be, unless anybody has an objection, this would be the temperature check to decide whether the subcommittee is okay with this as a recommendation to the main committee.
We have a couple of hands up. Stanley first.
Yeah, yes, I just wanted to, we had this conversation last time, I believe, but just to get clarification on folks who have a civil commitment. So does federal law still bar people under civil confinement from access to regular Pell? So individuals that are not under a civil confinement, so they have to for instance, individuals with sex offenses that have to make that notification I believe we discussed that and it had been changed under the new law, but just to get verification and clarification on that.
Oh, so that was a direct question to me. So I'll just jump in there now. So we've added in there, Stan, if you look in the highlight, we've added an individual is not considered incarcerated if the individual is subject to or serving an involuntary civil commitment. So that would mean that well, first of all the students under the confined or incarcerated student definition are eligible for Pell. It just depends on whether they're eligible for Pell to enroll in a prison education program or they're eligible for Pell to enroll in.
If I could clarify, under the previous law, for instance, there was a question on the FAFSA that asked people if they had had a civil commitment due to a sex offense, and that barred them from accessing federal funds. Similarly, there was a question that asked about drug crimes that bar people that had specific types of drug crime during school from obtaining federal funds, and that had been removed. So I just wanted, for the record, again, to clarify. And I think, David or one of the legal folks maybe can just add that clarification again for the record.
I think it's clarified, Stan. I said that we're saying that an individual that is subject or serving an involuntary civil commitment is not considered incarcerated for the purposes of Title IV aid. So that individual would be eligible to enroll in an eligible program and receive Pell and direct loans. So that individual that you're referring to.
What I was just wanting, for the record, to say that previously they were not, but now they are.
That is correct. That is correct. Yes.
So now the law has been changed. Perfect. Thank you.
And we've added that. We've reflected that in the amendatory language.
That text doesn't reflect that. The part that I'm talking about.
Okay, Stan, if you could provide us with some mandatory language you think that would get to that, we can take that back and discuss whether that language would be aligned with the statutory changes.
I mean, that's a different conversation, I believe, because that's referring to a different question on the FAFSA that used to be on the FAFSA that is no longer on the FAFSA, if I'm correct. Is that?
Perhaps our OGC would like to weigh in on this.
Yeah, so you're asking about the provision that used to make students ineligible if they had a drug conviction, right? David Musser may want to weigh in on that, but my understanding is that provision has now been eliminated, and the question has been eliminated from the FAFSA as well.
Right. It was drug conviction or a sex offense.
Okay, I can weigh on the drug conviction. So the question still is present on the FAFSA, but drug conviction of possession or sale of drugs no longer impacts a student's eligibility for aid. We released a Federal Register notice some time ago clarifying that and outlining the department's plans for removing the question from the FAFSA. It still appears on the FAFSA, but it no longer has an impact on the student's eligibility, and the department is currently working to provide updated help text on the FAFSA and also remove the question in a future award year. In regard to the sex offense question, Steve, what the statute was referring to, it was my understanding it was about serving an involuntary civil commitment. And I think what we've done here is we've added that to the definition of somebody who is not incarcerated. So that means that a student that is serving an involuntary civil commitment, a student that is in a halfway house, or a student that is in a home detention center, or a student that is serving only on weekends is eligible for a federal Pell Grant.
Aaron, do you mind if I jump in real quick?
Yes, please, David.
So I definitely think that the amendatory text that the department has introduced here makes it clear that an individual who is serving an involuntary civil commitment for whatever reason, including sexual offenses, is not considered incarcerated. But it may not be completely clear that such an individual still qualifies for Pell because the previous law prevented both students who were incarcerated in federal and state penal institutions and those who were subject to involuntary civil commitments to a loss of Pell eligibility. And those who were serving involuntary civil commitments weren't necessarily considered incarcerated under that legal language. So I think the question that I now want to defer to our general counsel is whether under the new law, individuals who are serving an involuntary civil commitment who are not considered incarcerated would nonetheless qualify for Pell Grants when the law is fully implemented.
And the best I can say on that is I'll have to take that back for some internal discussion. I don't know the answer off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
And if I could refer, I believe it was, a 2008 law that specifically pointed to, as David mentioned, involuntary civil commitment, people serving involuntary civil commitments were specifically not eligible for Pell. It had nothing to do with whether they were incarcerated or not. So, if we can get clarification on that, that would be good. I think last time we had asked that as well, but just to reiterate, so it's not only a question on the FAFSA, it was a specific piece of law, as David mentioned. Thank you.
Okay, we have Belinda, Marissa, and Terrell. Belinda first.
Great, thank you very much. I just wanted to make sure that we're crystal clear. I wanted to, number one, thank Ed over, I think it was on Friday, I'd sent that email to the group with regards to, you know, the definitions of confined or individual. And I want to thank Ed, you know, for providing some context. You know, you had all kind of explained that there is a little bit of kind of ambiguity or complexity in this definition. And I think you did a really good job of explaining how Ed certainly isn't trying to, Ed or Congress isn't certainly trying to kind of jump in and, you know, change definitions or things of that nature with regards to confined or incarcerated individuals. I did just want to make sure that, again, you know, usually corrections and usually education have, for the most part, for post-secondary education, have been quite separate. And for this, you know, as we move forward with Pell expansion, you know, we are going to be, there's a lot of extra weight that corrections is bringing into this space. And I see that Marissa has her hand up too. And I definitely want to defer to her as the, you know, the person from corrections on this subcommittee here. I just want to make sure that if we keep this language the way, you know, for example, bringing both confined and incarcerated individuals together in this text and not separating them, that when, for example, a DOC at a particular state is looking to work with an education's institution that wants to provide, that we won't inadvertently, accidentally, really just get, corrections might read it a certain way and education might read it a different way. And I that's a concern for me. I just want to make sure, and I know in the email that you'd sent out to everyone else, you know, that you all had, you know, clearly put in your email about the situation as it was, but you'd also said that the subcommittee may wish to provide statutory definition examples. And I just really just want to check. And again, I see Marissa is here, so this may be something that Marissa wants to bring up, but I just want to make sure that if we do indeed decide to go this way or this way with this, that by not separating those two, that down the road we might indeed kind of create a headache for corrections and educators as we're looking to expand with this. So I just want to put that out there. I see Marissa is here, so maybe she might want to speak about this. And if I need to say anything else, I'll put myself in the queue again, but thank you.
Marissa.
Thank you, Belinda. I think you're exactly right. These really need to be clarified. And the other issue that I think needs to be clarified, and it probably already has, but is the definition of youth under juvenile justice facility. We see a lot of different definitions of youth within education. And so is this defined somewhere else in the language? Because is it under 18 using dual enrollment? Is it 18 to 22? That would be something I would want clarification on if possible. So thank you.
Terrell.
I took my hand back down.
Okay. And we have Stan again then. Stan? Oh, you're here. Okay.
Sorry about
And that's all right. And Marissa, I'm assuming you're done speaking. Your hand is still up.
I'm done. Sorry.
Okay, no worries. Okay, that's it for the hands.
Thank you for all those comments. I can speak to Marissa's last question about the definition of youth. We haven't defined youth here in the regulation, but I can just point to the fact that this, by adding, I probably added to the confusion, but it was, we're not proposing to add add during this subcommittee the definition of a juvenile justice facility. This was added in 2018, I believe. So this has been the definition that has been in our regulations for some time now. And thank you for bringing that point to us, but we had not heard that there was, I guess, confusion in the community based on this definition. It was just to show that juvenile justice facilities, at least the previous way that the statute was written, is that those that were in a juvenile justice facility could receive federal Pell Grants. And now we're just saying that those that are in a juvenile justice facility can receive a Pell Grant as long as they enroll in a prison education program.
Marissa.
So does that include people under 18 in a dual enrollment program with a college? Or is it only 18 to 22-year-olds?
So that would include, and so for Pell eligibility, you have to be an otherwise eligible student. So any Pell, any eligibility requirements that we're not proposing to change eligibility requirements for Pell eligible for students. So the student would still have to have a high school diploma, or if it's equivalent, they would have to be a U.S. citizen or eligible non-citizen. I don't know if David would like to speak to dual enrollment, but I'll pause there to see if David would like to add anything on dual enrollment.
Sure. So the student eligibility requirements for Pell Grants and other types of Title IV aid require a student to have either the recognized equivalent of a high school diploma, or to qualify through one of the ability to benefit requirements, which could include the completion of a certain number of credits, the completion of an approved ability to benefit test, or participation in a state process that's been approved by the department. But the law also prevents all students who are enrolled in secondary school from receiving Title IV aid. So those individuals, if they're simultaneously enrolled in secondary school, will not qualify for Title IV aid. It's only when they are not simultaneously enrolled, and that could include students who have dropped out and not completed a secondary school, as long as they meet one of the other criteria I just mentioned in lieu of a recognized high school diploma. But they cannot be enrolled simultaneously in high school and be receiving Title IV aid for an eligible program.
Stan.
So I just found the site on the student aid page that says that people on a civil commitment cannot get Pell, and that looks to still be the law. So that was not changed with the FAFSA Simplification Act, as there was a specific piece of legislation towards that. So I think with us excluding them here, they are again getting excluded. I just sent the entire group an email with that link that shows that particular where that's mentioned.
Aaron.
Thank you for that, Stanley. That is current language that's on the FSA website. It hasn't been updated for the changes that we are going to make here during the subcommittee. The changes in statute are set to be made if we publish a regulation by November 1st, those changes will go into effect by July 1st, 2023. So the Office of Federal Student Aid, I don't want to speak for David, but they do have a little bit of time between then and now to update the website to reflect what the regulations will be on July 1st, 2023. That is the current law, but we are here working to, the law has been amended by the 2021 appropriations bill it made certain changes. And one of the changes is that, confined or incarcerated students are now eligible for Pell if they enroll in a prison education program. So that's what we're here to do now. I think Steve mentioned that that from the OGC perspective, they're going to take the question back. Hopefully we can get an answer. Oh, it looks like Steve raised his hand. Hopefully we're going to get an answer for you, but I'll pause there. I'll allow Steve to add more.
Steve.
Yeah, I didn't realize my hand was up. Sorry. I was just going to reaffirm what Aaron was saying. We'll take it back and try to come back with a clearer answer.
Yes, it is my understanding that the bill that was passed did not address that, but we have the opportunity here maybe to address that within the language. But if you could, I would appreciate if you could get back to us. Thank you.
No more hands at this time.
All right, so I kind of hesitate to take a temperature check there because I think we're not going to have it, but just for the record. Sophia, can you see everybody's screen that's a part of the subcommittee or no? No? Okay. Sophia, you're on mute.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said I do not have Marissa.
Okay.
I cannot see Marissa at all.
Okay, I can. So let's try and do a temperature check, and then Sophia, I'll see. I can see Marissa. So if you got,
I should be able to see her, but I don't. Okay, we'll just see.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Let's do the temperature check.
Okay. So let's give a thumbs up, sideways thumbs, or thumbs down to this based on the language as written, not including the follow-up on involuntary civil commitment from Steve. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Marissa has a sideways thumb.
And Stan has down.
Okay. So the only issue with this, well, I'll let Stan speak for herself. Sorry.
Yes, I can't give it sideways or up until I get that clarification, because depending on that will change what I would propose for language.
Okay. Thank you. So do we have any further discussion on this piece, or can we move to the next section, 600.7? Okay. So if we recall, this section was all about the 25% cap on incarcerated students, on enrolled incarcerated students for institutional eligibility. What we've done here, we did have no thumbs down on our temperature check last time. However, we are proposing a few technical changes in this, because you'll see in the highlight that we're adding subpart P. We're changing it from 668.80 to subpart P. And then let's see, I gotta go back. I'm like looking at so many screens here. Vanessa, if you could scroll down a little bit. We've also added on a program by program basis to number 3, and the rationale behind that was that if the school offers a 2 or 4 year program, then they would apply for the waiver, and the department will review that waiver based on the conditions that we propose to outline in regulation. If the institution offers programs that are 2 or 4 year programs that don't lead to a bachelor's, associate's, or post-secondary diploma, then those programs would have to have a 50% completion rate, as previously, it's already defined in regulation how that's calculated. And because each of the programs has to have a 50% completion rate or greater, the department would have to review each of those programs on a program by program basis to ensure that each of them had that 50% completion rate. So that's why we're proposing there to add a program by program basis. You'll also see that we're proposing to add, delete the secretary withdraws the waiver, or any language referring to withdrawing the waiver, and replace that with limits and terminates. And I want to pause there to turn over to Steve Finley and OGC to explain why we're changing it from withdraws to limits and terminates.
Sure. When you think about it, when an institution obtains approval from the department to do something like operate and offer programs that are not subject to the 25% waiver, in order to restrict that approval, the department has to provide some form of due process to the institution to challenge having its approval restricted. And so by using the reference to limit or terminate, that triggers into the existing department regulations where we provide for opportunities for the institution to request an administrative review of the actions by the department. So it's a pretty standard concept, and it ensures the institution would have due process before having its approvals restricted. Now that is only in effect for institutions that are in the midst of their program participation approvals, right? If an institution was being recertified, it can get its application can be reviewed and could be limited during recertification, just as a part of a restricted approval of an application. But if the institution's not in the process of being recertified, it would get some form of due process review for those limitations or terminations of the waiver.
Thank you, Steve. And I also, I'll just quickly add, I do know that Belinda, I see Belinda's hand raised, but I do know, Belinda, when one of your points of clarification that you emailed around that you were going to maybe propose some language on caps on enrollment. So if we wanted to talk about that, the floor is now open.
Belinda, I think you're on mute.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I didn't want to jump the gun on that. So yes, definitely. I again want to thank the Ed and colleagues. I sent that point of clarification. I definitely about the waivers and about this scaffolding approach, perhaps of institutions that are in this space. If they do indeed want to go above that waiver, that there would potentially be a mindful kind of scaffolding that we don't go, for example, from 1,000 students on a main campus to 100,000 students that include 99,000 students that are incarcerated all at once. So I think this scaffolding approach. So yes, colleagues who are on the subcommittee saw that email exchange. One of the things that I had thought of recommending is a cap for that waiver, so that we're always mindful of, if an educational institution typically serves X population, that then if they want to go into this population, that they're trying to reduce the opportunity for predatory kind of practices in this space. So I just wanted colleagues on the subcommittee to know that I will be working with you. I've got some possibly a mandatory language right now that I'm kind of like working through, but I hope by tonight I will get that mandatory language suggestion to the subcommittee for consideration. And then also, as the council had just mentioned too, this whole idea of like an advisory board, in place here when it comes to appeals or things of that nature is something too that we've been kind of looking at as well. So I'll try to make sure that that additional mandatory language gets out to everyone via the email so that everyone on the subcommittee can see it. Thank you.
Stan.
Yes, I just wanted to agree with what Belinda mentioned, and also just emphasize the advisory committee use here, as well as, I will also be emphasizing its use in a later part of the language. And I think, it's helpful if you can add, as we're in the conversation, the bubble off to the side, because I noticed there were a few comments that I made that were not recorded in the text. And so I feel like we're going to lose certain comments if we're not actively adding them. So that would be appreciated if it were able to be, someone is keeping note of that, even if it's not active. The version that gets sent to us to have those.
Aaron.
You're right. You're right, and I think that's a good idea. So I think we can add comment bubbles, because I don't think we've had any specific language suggestions yet, but we can add comment bubbles to capture the subcommittee's ideas. Vanessa, if you wouldn't mind adding here a comment bubble somewhere in here, just to say that Belinda will provide language on scaffolding or capping the capping the amount a school is able to increase enrollment after receiving a 25% waiver. And Stan, can you please repeat your suggestion about working with community organizations? Or
yes, I just this is, you know, the creation of an advisory committee could help oversee this process, and we can provide, just as Belinda said, we could provide more specific language to that.
it looks like I'll let Steve weigh in on that first, but.
Okay, Steve and Belinda, did you also have a second comment, or was just a hand up for the? Okay, Steve?
Yeah, just with respect to Belinda's comment, I was going to note that, you know, to the extent the department's responding to an application for a new program, the way the scaffolding could be put in place, if we were doing that, would be to make it a condition of the approval, right? You can provide a less than full approval to somebody when you're giving new permission. And if somebody needed to have that kind of restriction put in place because it looked like things were out of line, that would come into the limitations that we were using and referencing in this other language. With respect to the advisory committee, I think we need to discuss it. It seems like if it's something that wraps into the formal appeal process at the institution, the only parties that are recognized in the regulation are the institution and the department. So an advisory committee role might be something you would structure that would be part of what the institution would present in that situation. I don't know, but given that this is a pretty focused issue, I don't think it's going to result in a rewrite of the administrative appeals process at the department. It seems like we can do square pegs and round holes to some degree, and then we can talk about how the advisory committee would play into that, and see where it goes.
Stan.
Yeah, so my thinking around it is it still keeps the same language, that it is those two entities that are responsible for the decision, but we add language that they are advised, and particularly the DOC, you know, can, you know, be the advisory committee. And you know, I hope to actually propose some language to give that, you know, a body such as that some strength behind it. But as is written, it can still be that the two deciding entities, you know, could be what is written, and they are being advised by some group of experts.
Does not look like I have any other hands right now. I think Belinda put her hand back down. Kim just put her hand up. Yes.
Yes, thank you. Steve, this is for you. You mentioned the program participation agreement and maybe adding it to that language. Are you looking at maybe another column that would indicate this is a correctional facility that program of study might be assigned to, as well as, you know, traditional students? And what kind of reporting out for Department of Ed would we need to do to reflect that percentage? So how would they know that we're staying within those parameters?
Steve?
Yeah, thanks. I was just raising my hand. I think those are great questions. I think one of the reasons the department has built into the proposal here that a prison education program is going to be treated as a separate location is that it will greatly enhance the way that the department can track the information that's unique to those locations and those programs. And I think we'll need, to the extent that that location is offering more than one program, and it's a program by program waiver, there are program by program outcomes that are being tracked. I think we'll have to put some thought into that. It's a very good question. Thank you.
Thank you.
And it looks like no hands at this time. Aaron?
Thank you, Sophia. So I think, oh, Vanessa, if you can scroll up just a little bit back to the 600.2 section. I just wanted to, I put a comment bubble in there, right there. Stan, does that cover what your question was? Okay, thank you. All right, we can scroll back down, Vanessa, to 600.7. So I think here, unless I am mistaken, I think, wait, Kim, you may have had another, did you want to add a comment to the comment bubble, Kim? So far we have, Belinda is going to be providing us with some language, and we also have Stan's recommendation to add an advisory group to this determination.
No, I do not have anything on that.
Okay. So I think I'd like to take a temperature check on that and see how many thumbs down we have, or thumbs up or sideways thumbs, to see how we can move forward.
Aaron, I still don't have Marissa's video on video.
I have Marissa.
Okay.
Thank you, Sophia.
Sure.
If you can put your thumbs up close to your face so Sophia can see them all. Okay.
Belinda, I can't see yours.
Sorry, I had a point of clarification. Sorry, I had my hand raised. I
Oh, okay.
apologize. So just a quick question. Ordinarily, I would do a thumbs down because obviously the bubble hasn't been, taken care of yet. So am I just doing sorry, I just need to check, because if it's, with the bubble still needing to be done, then I would do this. But if it's with the bubble recorded and then we're going to get back to you, then I might do this. So I just wanted a little point of clarification. I apologize. It's a Monday. I just want to double check.
So the clarification is just for the information on the slide, not with what you'll be proposing, or not with what, not with Stan's recommendation. I just wanted to see, before we got too far ahead, last time we did the temperature checks all the way at the end. And so at this point, because this is our final session, we will have to circle back to fix or to amend or to provide rationale on why the department doesn't recommend amending the language changes. So I just wanted to make sure we had a tally of folks as we go along to see if we had general agreement on the section or not. So far, we have to circle back to 600.2. So yeah, so you're a thumbs down. Yeah, okay, there you go. So Vanessa, in that comment bubble that we have, sorry, Vanessa, we're gonna make Vanessa jump between so many screens today. Vanessa, in that comment bubble, can you put, we have 2 thumbs down as well from Belinda and Stan. We give Vanessa just a moment. I know we're having her jump back and forth. I've actually been in that seat before, doing the real-time red line edits, and it's a lot when you have a lot of people saying, oh, put this here, put that there, please. Thank you, Vanessa. All right. So we're going to move into 600.10 now, so we can scroll down a little bit. Yeah, thank you, Vanessa. So we had no thumbs down for this section. However, to improve the structure and clarity, we have removed the reference to Romanet. Oh, so we included prison education programs in that Romanet 2 in the first for the first session, but we wanted to give it its own Romanet. So we've added that separate Romanet. We've also added clarifying language about the additional location that we're referring to. And so we've said that it's the first prison education program under Subpart P. I think, Vanessa, if you wouldn't mind deleting so where it says of Subpart P of 34 CFR Part 600. Can you delete the O in the 0.8?
Is that what you mean?
Let's see. It's not updating on my screen just yet, but I'm sure you got it. Let's see. Yeah, it's a little latent, but that's okay. So basically, we've added clarifying language to say that it's still the first prison education program at the first two additional locations, as defined under 600.2. But we've added clarity to say that those locations would be a federal, state, local, penitentiary, prison, jail, reformatory, work farm, juvenile justice facility, or other similar correctional institution. So I'll pause there for. Again, we had no thumbs down on this section last time. This is a technical edit to provide more clarity for the reader.
I don't see any hands.
Okay, so can we do a temperature check on that? So that's 600.10. I will let's see, Sophia, you're on mute.
I was going to say, I can't see the entire screen. I cannot see Terrell, and I still do not see Marissa.
Okay, I think Vanessa's taking it down now. All right, I see Marissa. She's a thumbs up.
Okay.
So, all
Good
right.
then.
Thank
No thumbs down. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Vanessa, if we can go back to the projecting the mandatory text, please. Let's give it a second, I think, and then. Are you all able to see that? Not yet. Okay. All right. Let's just give it a second. And we might need to after lunch. We might need to come up with a different way to do the temperature checks. Maybe we can do like a roll call as opposed to asking Vanessa to go back and forth between the language and the temperature check. So while we wait, the only thing that we need to add to that is that, you know, that the subcommittee, there were no thumbs down. So I don't know that would mean that, you know, the department likely would not need to go back and revisit the section, other than to make perhaps a technical edit if it's, you know, if a Romanet is off, or if a period is off, or a comma is off. Okay, so let's move to the next section while we wait for Vanessa to, I think it should be coming up. Still nothing. Okay. Yeah, so we'll come back to, we'll figure out if Vanessa's screen can't be shared, then we'll figure out a path forward momentarily. If it's not resolved, maybe by 11:30 we'll take or in the next few minutes, maybe we'll take a short break just to figure out what the technology issues are. So moving into 600.1, here we've also made a, we've also made the technical edit to add those correctional facilities that would have to be reported as additional locations. And those are the federal, state, and local penitentiaries, prisons, jails, reformatories, work farms, juvenile justice facilities, and other similar correctional facility. And we've also stated here, Belinda had the suggestion. So So to back up, this is about, so this 600.21 is about notifying the department after your first prison education program at the first 2 additional locations has been approved. So after you submit your applications to the department to have those programs approved, you still, institutions still will be required to report their additional locations to the department or any correctional facility where they are offering prison education programming, essentially. And so there was a suggestion made by Belinda to add its establishment and also cross-reference to 600.2 or the definition under 600.2. So we added that. So we say its establishment or addition as defined under 600.2. So essentially we've taken the suggestion here. Okay. What I want to do is I want to pause for a moment. Amy, is there a way to, if we can take a maybe a 3-minute break just to figure out what is what the issue is with the projection?
Yeah, I also emailed Vanessa to take a break. We would just take a break. We don't have a breakout room or anything, if that's what you're asking.
Okay. So let's take a 5-minute break, and we will return at 11:15. We're making really good progress. And so I think that a 5-minute break right now just to figure out what the technology issues is, and maybe we'll have somebody else screen share. So thank you so much, and we will be right back. You can turn your cameras off, please. Okay, I think we've resolved our technological issues, and if the subcommittee could reconvene, I apologize for that short break. I think as a way, do we have everyone? I see Angie, Kim, Stan, Belinda. Do we have Marissa?
I'm here.
Okay. Do we have, I think, let's see. Terrell. Has Terrell rejoined us? Dr. McTier. If you could come off mute, Dr. McTier or Terrell, if you've rejoined us. So as a way forward, instead of asking Vanessa to take down, to go back and forth between sharing and not sharing, I think it would be the best that Vanessa just continues sharing her screen, at least for the remainder of the morning time. And then for the temperature checks, we can, if somebody is in, if somebody, when I say a temperature check, we don't have to do the thumbs anymore. We can just say if someone would be a thumbs down, just let us know. And then you can just state that reason why. So if you're a thumbs down, raise your hand. Sophia will call on you and you can state why you aren't fully on board with that section just yet as a recommendation to the main committee. Do we have Terrell or Dr. McTier back yet?
Dr. McTier is here.
Thank you, Dr. McTier. Terrell?
I'm here as well.
Okay, thank you, Terrell. Okay, so for the last section that we went through, the last section that we had no thumbs down for, it looks like Vanessa's written that in there. All right, so we had no thumbs down for the 600.10. And that was just making a technical change to provide prison education programs as own Romanet. Also update to ensure that we're making the right cross-reference, and also adding the types of additional locations that we're looking for that need to be approved by the secretary. All right, if we can move down to 60221, Vanessa, please. Let's see. Oh, yeah, that's what we just talked about. So yes, I was thinking about 600.10. So 600.21 was reporting the locations after we've approved the first two additional locations. And we've added the establishments at Belinda's recommendation, and we've also added that same clarifying language that we added to 600.10 and a cross-reference to 600.2. And so I can't remember, I don't think we took a temperature check on this yet. If anyone isn't, thank you, Belinda. I was saying, so your head shaking. You're like the only person I can see on my screen actually outside the department, folks. If we can take a temperature check on that, that would mean raising your hand and also stating why you are a thumbs down for this section. That would be helpful. Or if you are in agreement and you want to raise your hand and speak as well, that's fine. It was, but certainly if you're a thumbs down.
I don't see any thumbs down. I don't know that I have everybody.
And I don't see any hands raised or anyone wanting to comment. So,
right.
Yeah. So I think we can say no thumbs down for 600.21. Thank you, Vanessa. Okay, Vanessa, if you can go down to 668.8. All right, if you all remember, this section is about eligible programs, and the department proposed to put the definition of a prison education program here in the first round, but due to the level of detail in the definition, we consulted with our general counsel, and we recommend that the prison education programs have its own subpart. When I sent you the email about this, I sent you like kind of a walkthrough on how to see how the subparts are set up in the Code of Federal Regulations. So hopefully you've had a chance to see that. So there is one remaining clause in 668.8 that does need to be amended here. This is a technical change. We did not receive any thumbs down for this in the first round. And so 668.8, we're essentially just saying that the department, well, for Title IV purposes, a prison education program is a program that's eligible to participate in Title IV programs. And we've, of course, changed the cross-reference from paragraph O to subpart P, where the new definition of prison education programs will reside. So I will pause there for comments, and if we have none, then we can take a temperature check.
I don't see any hands.
Thank you, Sophia.
Oh wait, somebody's just went up. Terrell?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Aaron. I just wanted clarification on what this piece actually states.
Okay, so we're saying here, so 668.8 is where we have the definitions of like just eligible programs in general, right? Like we talk about, one of the big pieces is like for Pell specifically, and we talk about like minimum program lengths, right? Like it has to be like a 600 clock hours or at least 15 weeks. We talk about a lot of different program eligibility regulations in that 668.8. Initially, what we had done here, Terrell, is when the first section, in the first session, we had the entire definition of a prison education program underneath this, but we've decided to just take that out and give it its own subpart, which we'll probably get to it. We're moving pretty fast, so we'll probably get to it by the end of the day. But here we're just saying in 668.8, so there's like, you know, there's A through M before this, so there's like a lot of different paragraphs before this paragraph. But once we get to this paragraph in 668.8, we're just adding that for the purposes of Title IV for Pell, eligible programs include not only direct assessment programs, which are already defined at 668.8, and also not only comprehensive transition and post-secondary programs, but we're also saying that a prison education program would also be eligible for Title IV HEA purpose. So it's just a technical change to amend the regulations to state that the prison education programs are eligible programs. And this was the same language that we had from session 1. It's just that we're just updating the cross-reference now because it's no longer correct. We have a new subpart P, as opposed to paragraph O that would have fallen under this paragraph N.
Understood. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the question.
I don't see any other hands.
Okay, so I will move us into a temperature check for 668.8. And the temperature check is just about, well, we've already, actually, we had no thumbs down on it, but I guess kind of just to put the final stamp of approval on it. I'd just like to see if we have any thumbs down for this. So if you do have a thumbs down, please raise your hand and please provide rationale on how the department can get you to a sideways thumbs or a thumbs up.
No hands.
Thank you, Sophia. Vanessa, could you add a comment bubble? No, thank you. Oh, thank you, Vanessa. And can you go down to 668.32? So here, let's see, so here I'm going to, I have to make just one update. So you should see it hopefully in real time. Confine, and then I gotta make one more update. All right, so the last time, so for this section, we had a lot of discussion about it, and we did have some thumbs down from Dr. McTier and Stans. The department here hasn't recommended any changes because we view this as a technical change, but we did have a recommendation to, because originally it said is not incarcerated, but I made the recommendation to update it to is not a confined or incarcerated individual. And so that was the change that was made between this session and between the first session and the second session, is that I've added confined or incarcerated individual, and the reason I added confined or incarcerated individual is because that's how our definition is structured in 600.2. We've also updated a cross-reference because so we actually might need to update that as well. So we need to make one more update. I apologize. So instead of 668.35, we need to change that to 600.2. All right. And we say, or is enrolled in a prison education program as defined in our new subpart P. I will pause there for discussion.
Stan?
I'm trying to follow along and having some difficulty. This document that you're sharing says it's 12 pages long. Is this the same one that you sent us? That you sent to us? Because the one that you sent to us is not 12 pages, right? Or is it? I guess, is it just getting longer as you add more stuff?
I believe it is 12 pages, Stanley.
Oh, okay. So this is the same what you sent to us.
Correct.
Okay.
I don't see any hands.
And so we're on page 4. So we've gotten through 1/3 of it already.
We do have to circle back with you about a few issues. So we're not clear of those sections yet.
Got it.
But we're going to circle back to 600.2, Stan, about your clarifications, and we still have to wait on Belinda's language for 600.7. So it does seem like as though we're moving pretty quickly, but we have to wait on council and also language updates in order to do anything further with 600.2 or 600.7. A lot of the other changes that we've taken temperature checks on, or pretty much all of them, were essentially technical changes to the regulations that have to be made. And so that's why, and also keep in mind that the definition of a prison education program was originally in 668.8, but remember we decided to move it to subpart P. So we would have spent a lot more time on 668.8 if the department had chosen to or recommended to keep the definition there. But I think once you see subpart P, once we get down to subpart P, that's when we're probably going to have a lot of conversation and spend a lot of time there. I wanted to get through the technical changes today. And I do think that we'll get to subpart P today based on the way that we're moving, but I wanted to get through a lot of the more technical issues today so that we could spend a lot of time on the definition of a prison education program with our 3As.
Yeah, and I'm trying to follow and not miss, I have points that I specifically want to talk on, but then, since it's been reframed and formatted a little bit since last, I think that's why I just want to make sure that I didn't miss something. So that's nothing of you guys, I guess, just me trying to follow along in class here today.
Kim.
Thank you very much. Erin or Steve or David, one of you, I read this kind of stuff all the time in my profession as a financial aid administrator, and I am really having trouble with this language for some reason. I can't follow it. It feels like a double negative at times. So I was wondering if you could go through and, for my purpose and for everyone else who doesn't deal with this kind of language every day, to explain each line and what it's saying or not saying. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, so I guess we could start at, C2. So we're talking for this section, for paragraph C2, we're just talking about purposes of federal Pell Grant eligibility. And one of the statutory components of Pell is that it's only for your first undergraduate course of study. I think that's what the law says. So we're just saying that the student does not have a baccalaureate or their first professional degree, right? So Kim, you know this stuff, and this is just for everybody, people that are listening in, their awareness. Did you want to jump in there, Kim? So you have your hand up. Okay, all right. And then there is everything Title IV-A. There's always an exception to the rule, and that's for if the student is enrolled in a post-baccalaureate teacher certification program. And that's longstanding policy, that's longstanding guidance, and that's actually statutory. And then so we said here in Romanet 2 is that the student can't be a confined or incarcerated student, going back to that definition that we're going to circle back to. The student cannot be a confined or incarcerated individual, right? And if they are a confined or incarcerated individual, then the student would have to enroll in a prison education program, as we've recommended to define it in our new subpart P. And the specific reference would be 668.236. So I think that because we did make structural changes to the way that we've set it up. First, obviously, we had it in 668.8. Now we have an entire subpart. I think that's where maybe some of a lot of the confusion might lie, just the overall, just this formatting. We haven't made, in that formatting, we didn't make any substantive changes that weren't either recommended by the subcommittee or the department, but so most of it remained the same. It was just a technical change to put it in a subpart by itself. It's just that we felt, because the language was becoming more detailed, we thought that it would be better housed in its own subpart where it's only about prison education programs and nothing else. So this was language, I think we only had 2 thumbs. Well, actually, Kim, you might have been a thumbs down last time too, because you had recommended to add is not a confined or incarcerated individual, because again, before it stated is not incarcerated. So we've added that, but otherwise, we did have 2 other thumbs down for other reasons, and I can let those subcommittee members speak to those. So Kim, does that help, or?
It does. It just seems on A there, I mean, I know what you're trying to say, but if I'm a new financial aid administrator looking at this, I may get confused, because A says it's not available to, you can't be confined or incarcerated, or is enrolled in an eligible prison education program. It seems like those would be combined. Okay. And instead of saying who can't, you would say who could.
So if you look up to the paragraph Romanet 1A, we do have the negative as well, like does not have a baccalaureate or first professional degree, or is enrolled in a post-baccalaureate teacher certification or licensing program. So we do have the is not language in there, but your recommendation would be to just say that
that if you are a confined or incarcerated individual, you must be enrolled in an eligible prison education program.
Okay.
It seems to simplify it.
Yeah, to simplify it. Okay. We can definitely, unless our OGC wants to weigh in now, we can take that back for further discussion. Vanessa, can you put a comment bubble in to combine A and B? Kim Carey recommended to combine A and B.
Thank you, Erin.
Thank you.
No further hands at this time.
Okay, so I think we can take a, oh,
Well, there's Dr. McTier.
Sorry, I had to process
No.
what exactly was going on in terms of what was written and why I could have put my thumbs down last time. It seems like it's, again, banning anyone who's not in the higher ed and prison program. And so other students who might not necessarily be in the HEP program would not be eligible for any type of Pell whatsoever. So if there's a one-on-one course offering from another faculty member or something else, unless they're in this PEP program or HEP program, excuse me, then they would otherwise be excluded. And I think that's why I put my hand down last time. So again, it seems like this is very restrictive. And I'm not exactly sure what was taken back to the Department of Ed, because it looks like there's not really any proposals to include others outside of a prison education program.
Erin?
thank you for that, Dr. McTier. So the department views this as a technical change. The statute, I think we had extensive discussion about this last time, and the department, the statute lays out eligibility for confined or incarcerated individuals. And the statute says that if you are a confined or incarcerated individual, you can receive a federal Pell Grant if you're otherwise eligible for that federal Pell Grant. But to receive that Pell Grant, you must enroll in a prison education program. And so we are confined by the statute. And Dr. McTier, I did note that you said, like, if a student wanted to enroll in a one-off course, for eligibility for Title IV purposes, a student is required to enroll in a program. So students wouldn't be eligible for Title IV to audit, like, let's say, a one-off course. Like, I just wanted to take one course, I don't want to enroll in a program. That no student, regardless of, without regard to whether they were in the prison education program or not, would be eligible to receive Pell to enroll in what they would have to enroll in an actual eligible program. That is not to say that they may not be enrolled. They could be enrolled in one course in a payment period, because for Pell purposes, a student can enroll less than half time in a program, but they still would have to be enrolled in an eligible program in order to receive Pell. And that is for incarcerated students. That is for any other eligible confined or incarcerated students. That is for all other students. All other regular students have to enroll in an eligible program to receive Title IV federal student aid. And so I don't see a place where the department, if you wanted to recommend some language changes, we could take those back. But here, because this is a technical change, outside of improving the clarity, as suggested by Kim, I don't see a substantive change to the department's regulation here. And I will pause.
Steve, were you taking your hand down?
I took my hand down because Erin addressed exactly the issue I was going to, which is it's the overall eligibility for Pell Grants requires the student to be enrolled in an eligible program and not just one class.
And Dave, same?
I had one follow-on point. I agree with everything that Erin and Steve said. And the only point that I wanted to make, which I don't think would fully address Dr. McTier's concern about students who want to take a class outside of a program, which, as Erin correctly noted, would never be Pell eligible in any other context. The definition of an eligible prison education program, depending on the program, could be fairly expansive, in the same way that the definition of an eligible program at a traditional institution that allows for a lot of different course opportunities could also be expansive. So, for example, if a school had a variety of courses that the student could take to fulfill a general education requirement, all of those courses could qualify for Pell eligibility under the same prison education program. Similarly, certain majors or other majors that would fulfill other requirements in the program could also qualify. So there is some room for an institution to define what its program can consist of somewhat broadly. But otherwise, the restrictions that Aaron and Steve noted are definitely something that we don't have much opportunity to change in the regulations.
Dr. McTeer, do you still have your hand up or?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So, I mean, I would just go on the record. It seems like we're tied here. Again, I think we're missing a really great opportunity to provide educational opportunities to so many individuals incarcerated. While this is a good step in the right direction, it's a very small step, and my goal is hopefully to expand access to even those who can't even, get into the PEP program or a PEP program because it's limited in space, or it's just not feasible for it to be at every facility within a state. And I'm talking about a prison facility or whatnot. So it seems like we are, our hands are tied a little bit here. I'm still not very happy about it, but I guess what can we do at this point?
Terrell?
Thank you. If I'm hearing correctly, it sounds like the word program is being used in two different ways. I think when Dr. McTeer is hearing program, he's hearing a prison education program. And I think the other way it's being used is a program as in a Title IV program, meaning any student who wants to attend college or take classes using Pell Grants, they need to, it sounds like, be enrolled in an eligible program, meaning at a college. And I think the communication is crossed where, again, the word program is being used in two different ways. I don't think this language is saying that an incarcerated student cannot participate in a prison education program if they are not enrolled in the one that's in their facility. Please correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like a person can enroll in a prison education program that is not in their facility, meaning teaching in-person classes, but whatever program it is outside of that, if they're doing distance learning with another college that is qualified, it just has to apply, they have to apply those same rules that students in the community have, meaning it has to be a part of an eligible program. They have to take or enroll in X amount of courses in order to utilize the Pell Grants. Is that correct?
Aaron?
I just wanted to add, though, that if a student wishes to enroll in a distance or correspondence program, that program at their correctional facility, that program would have to be, if it was the first program at the first two additional locations, that program would have to be approved by the department and the accreditor. If it's not the first program at the first two additional locations, that program was, if the student wanted to enroll in that program, they would still have to submit that. I remember, Terrell, we talked about that pseudo, like that smaller application where they would have to submit information to the department that there was that institution that wanted to offer the program to the student was not subject to any negative actions by the accreditor or the state in the last 5 years. This institution also could not be under any initiated adverse actions. And let's say, for example, we're going to get to it later. This was one of Belinda's recommendations. But let's say that the program was the first program at the first two additional locations was in-person program. If that third program is if that third program at the additional location is offered through, if there's a change in method of delivery to offer it through distance or correspondence, the accreditor would also have to do a complete evaluation of that program as well. So if I was a student at a correctional facility and that facility was not an additional location, I could not just simply apply to enroll in that correspondence or distance program. That it would have to be essentially reported to the department, approved, and they would have to go through all of the requirements that we are defining here today to implement the prison education program. So the institution would have to do everything that was in the regulation before that student could enroll in the distance or correspondence program.
Dave.
Yeah, just seconding everything that Aaron said, but to your point, to your earlier point, it still does mean that as long as the other institution goes through all of those requirements and has an eligible prison education program that's offered through distance education, the student would have potentially a choice of program at that facility. They could take the on-campus program, they could take the distance education program and the courses associated with it, etc. But what we'll get into later are the specific requirements for approval, for reporting and approval of those programs. But yeah, once those conditions are met and those are eligible prison education programs, then any confined or incarcerated student at that particular facility could be Title IV eligible if they are enrolled in that program and taking courses in that program.
Stan.
So this is, where I made the point last time to mention that, this is not Pell for all. And I encouraged us to try and think of a way to think about how we can be more inclusive. I mean, is in this current language, or, what is considered statutory, is there a way for us to be more inclusive? I gave the example last time of an individual who is trying to, get into school, get into higher education, and has no idea about who are eligible programs and is just trying to apply to college. That person, how does that person access Pell?
Aaron?
So if a confined or incarcerated individual seeks to access Pell, the correctional facility at that the confined or incarcerated individual is at has to be a additional location of a post-secondary institution. So I think David mentioned earlier that location would have to be an additional location and approved as an additional location in order for the student that was incarcerated at that facility to access Pell. So I think just we see this as a technical change. This is a required change, and I think that this language is really simply getting to implementing statutory language that states that a student that is confined or incarcerated must enroll in an eligible prison education program. So I hear your point, Stan. I think that what we're trying to ask for here is ways to clarify the language as Kim recommended. I'm not saying that we're going to recommend to go in that direction, but Kim recommended combining the two sentences to make it more clear what we're actually talking about here. But the recommendation wasn't to actually change or to not enforce a statutory provision. We are required to enforce a statutory provision, and I think we can definitely continue having conversations about this. But I think if after we return from the lunch hour, we have to move on. Now, if your recommendation is going to be that we amend the regulatory language to, allow students to take one course or a non-enrollment eligible program, or if your recommendation is to, not require that if confined or incarcerated enroll in a prison education program, that is something the department cannot do. And so we would have to, and if that is a recommendation that you'd like to make to the subcommittee, that is something that either Jennifer Hong or I would likely, during the recommendation you'd like to make to the main committee, I don't know if I said main committee, that is something that Jennifer Hong or I would likely have to advise the main committee that this is a statutory provision. A student that is a confined incarcerated must enroll. Let me just finish really quickly. A student must enroll in a prison education program to access Pell if you're confined or incarcerated. And while that is the recommendation that Stan chooses to make, that that is not how the department can implement the statute.
Thank you. If I could just also, again, this was one of those places that my comment from last time was not included as a bubble, despite it, you know, this is the language that makes this not Pell for all. This is the, you know, this is where in the language that is defining that this is not giving Pell to all incarcerated individuals. So, you know, one, I want that to be stated. Two, I want it to be stated that, you know, how can we be more inclusive for us to think of that way? One potential way is us, you know, defining prison education programs to be more inclusive. And, you know, that now then challenges some of the concerns and things that we're thinking about as we move into the prison education program conversation later. You know, how do we make that more inclusive to try and capture an individual? Right now, it is so we're defining the prison education program so tightly because we're concerned with quality and other guardrails that we're actually making it not very inclusive at all. You know, we're making it very difficult for programs to get in. We're making them very difficult to even operate in terms of all the stipulations that they have to meet. So it's just very concerning to me. And, you know, I expressed that concern last time. And again, it wasn't noted here. And I would like for it to be noted.
Aaron?
Before Vanessa, before we note that, I just want to circle back, and this is I understand, I hear what you're saying, Stan. Thank you for your comments. We are going to, based on the pace in which we're moving now, we will likely get to the subpart P. We will likely get there today, and we will just begin discussing the definition of a prison education program. And I think at that point, it will be more than helpful for places and language suggestions where we can potentially make it more inclusive. But for right now, we are talking about 668.38. That is technical. I think we have to. I think this is the language that is we're required to enforce by statute, and I think it might be.
I just want my comment to be added. I got you, Aaron. Got you. I would like my comment to be added. That's simple and clear what I said. I understand what you say about statutory. I'm asking you to add. You said that you wanted to include bubbles where our comments and ideas were acknowledged. I'm asking you to acknowledge my comment and my idea. That's simple as that.
Is there anything else you want, or is that fine? The idea, Stan?
This section specifically points to it not being Pell for all incarcerated individuals. I would like that added, please. This section specifically points to this not being Pell for all incarcerated students, or all incarcerated individuals.
Could you repeat the last part?
This section points to this specifically not being Pell for all incarcerated individuals.
Aaron?
Yeah, so I think what we can do now is take a temperature check. We have 5 minutes until lunch. So if we could have the committee, the subcommittee, let us know if there is any thumbs down. You can just raise your hand and let us know why. Someone is not on mute.
Yeah, so my thumb would be down just for what was added.
Okay.
That's all I see.
Oh.
What?
Kim, if I could ask a question, Kim, if we consult in the recommendation is to keep it as 2 separate paragraphs, would you be a thumbs down, or if we got the verification like that, you know, that it should remain 2 separate paragraphs?
Sure. That's why I didn't go down on that one, because I thought, well, it's fine either way, but
okay.
It's just, you know, these are hard to read for just normal people. So the simpler we can get them, the better.
All right. So essentially, you'd be like more of a sideways thumb if we didn't. Okay. Thank you for that. Yes. Understood. All right.
Not seeing any other hands. Aaron.
Sorry. Let's go down to, we have 3 minutes left, and we did take that 5-minute break. So I wanted to introduce 668.34, sorry, 43 before we went to lunch. And this was the disclosure section. So you can hold there, Vanessa, thank you. So the temperature check for this section, there were 5 thumbs down last time. And so to respond to Belinda and Dr. Piccioni's concerns, we have removed upon request. And so therefore, the student would no longer have to request these disclosures. They would just, the institution would just be required to provide these students with the disclosures. And Dr. McTier, you.
Yes. I was going to ask, is there a comment or question?
Oh, sorry. I was actually looking at my notes. Dr. McTier had made a comment last time, so I'm almost done. Dr. McTier.
But really quick, I was going to say we only have 2 minutes, and this I don't want to rush. Mm-hmm. We only have 2 minutes before lunch, so I would like to put a pin in it and come back after lunch, so that way we can take the time and the due diligence to go through this stuff. I really don't want to rush anything.
Yeah, so I wasn't suggesting or recommending to take a temperature check on this. I was just gonna introduce it. So like that was in folks' minds that we were gonna be coming back to it. It was just gonna be a very high level overview of what we did. And I didn't expect people to have to comment in 1 minute and vote or do a temperature check. It was really just to say like, here are the changes and think about them over lunch. And we'll come back to it. But because we do have 1 minute left, perhaps I will just table it for now and then come back to it after lunch with the further updates that we've made to the section. And so with that said, let's reconvene at 1 p.m. And thank you all for completing the first morning session of the first day of our final session. Thank you so much.